So this is our new GUI. We can load data as before. So this is a data set with a short string, which was about 3 centimeters. We can pick 2 points. One there. One there. It's going to take the 2 points, find some close values, and then find the zeros, then find the period. And then I can enter the length, which was 3 centimeters, so 0.03, and save that point. I can then load the medium string, and this had a length of 16 centimeters. I can pick 2 points. One there and one there. Gonna get the close values. It's gonna get the 0 points, and that's the period. I can save that data point with the period and length. And I can load one final test run with the long string, which was about 29 centimeters. And pick 2 points. There. One there. The points, the close values, the zeros, and the actual period. I can enter the length of 29 centimeters and save that data point. Once again, it's saved. And then I can export the coefficients. I can calculate the coefficients first. So that's been calculated, and then I can export the coefficients with the name export. So that's been saved, and now that I've calculated the coefficients, I can enter any length, such as 0.4 meters, and it's going, I press the get period button, and it's going to get the period for that length. I can also get the gravitational constant. So that's our calculated gravitational constant. You're also able to load back in the coefficients. So instead of running all 3 tests again, you're able just to load from file the coefficients, and once again be able to enter whatever period, any length, to get period.
Alright, so here's our pendulum here. We're going to have 3 different height settings in which we're going to collect data from the pendulum swing. The first one is at about this height, and then we're going to alter the height by just taking the string here and wrapping it around this piece of wood there, and that brings it up to our second height. We wrap it around one more time. It's going to be at our third height. And for each time, we're going to have the sensor roughly in a position like that in order to collect the data from the swinging pendulum.
Here we have currently our project running some recording of data. You see that there is a sine wave being represented by the pendulum swinging back and forth. At the top here we have the actual sensor data, so distance versus time, and the filter data down below using a median filter. In the settings tab here, you can actually set how long the data will run for, and also set the median window size. So if I set it to a window of 3, you'll see that the filter data actually smooths out. You can also change the COM port and any of the pins that the hardware is connected to. We also have a reset in here, which will reset the whole thing. You could also save the file. So if we want to save the file, we can just go to Downloads, select Folder, and it'll actually save it as the file name as an Excel file. We can also load our data. So I actually have a test of using a short string. So if we actually see the data is actually having a higher frequency, and it's a little bit more unstable since it's not able to capture as much data points. We can also change the medium window size here, say to 7, and we'll do an extreme case where it basically just annihilates everything. Here we have the close value function, which takes our G input from the user and searches through our X array to find the nearest real data points that we have to start with. What it inputs is the X array as well as the user selected X data points. And what it does, it actually takes the absolute value of the X array minus a single user selected point, and that will give us an array where many values are close to 0. Then we take that array and we find which value is closest to 0, we find the index, and then we're able to export the X value at that index. Next we have the interpolation function, which is really simple. We input 2 data points, one above the y-axis and one below, and it will output where x will equal 0 on that interpolated line. All we did for this was we just took this equation right here, solved it for x when y equals 0. And as you can see here we're solving for b0 and then b1 using the 2 vectors. And then what we do is we just put in that equation and we're able to output x0 from this function. Here is the secant method that inputs a initial index. What we do is we put this through a while loop that will constantly run until it finds value. First thing we do is we increase the index value by 1, and then we see if that y data point at that index is less than 0. If it's false, it'll just loop again, do the whole thing. But if it's less than 0, then we will actually break out of this while loop, and we will store the first point being the index previous, meaning it will be above the y-axis for our first data point. And our second data point will be at that index right below 0, and it will output those 2 data points for the rest of the functions to use.
So this exports the ABC matrix, so the coefficients. It's just, you can select the file, get the app name, and it saves an Excel file and has some try catches. This saves the current data points to a function above. This calculates the coefficients when the button is pushed. So it's going to take the length of the string, squared, a 1's matrix, and then it's going to do this function. It's going to concatenate them, and then it's going to get the period column, and then it's going to get the ABC matrix by doing the inverse times the period column. So this is connected to the get period button. So when you press the button, it's going to take the ABC matrix and it's going to multiply it by the length, squared, length, and then the 1, and that's going to give you the get period. That's going to give you the period of any length that you give it. This is going to load the coefficient, so you can open up the Excel file, just UI get file. So this is the G input. So these first 3 lines are setting up the G input to be focused on the whole app, so you can use G input. And then this line is the G input, which is going to let you select an X point and another X point.